No.
Good morning. My name is Melissa. I am an assistant buyer with Rogers Gardens, and I'm here to talk to you guys about planting and maintaining your Wally Pocket. I'm super excited to talk about this topic today because it falls under the larger umbrella idea of vertical gardening. So vertical gardening is this really cool concept of building your garden upwards instead of outwards. In Southern California and in a lot of areas, as cities are expanding and people are moving into smaller spaces, it's hard to have the room to expand your garden outwards. A lot of us aren't going to have acres of land where we can have our sprawling garden. So we want to use that vertical space instead in order to get as much green space and stay connected to nature. I also love it just because it's a really cool way of using a blank wall space. So if you have a big area outside or inside that's just a big blank wall, I think turning that into a green space, making a living wall out of it, is just as cool as having a big piece of artwork. It's also a way to show like your expression and your taste and your style, and you can have a lot of fun with it. So that's what we'll do today. We'll start with just talking about the materials that you need for your Wally Pocket. Of course, you're always going to start out with soil. Our blue ribbon potting soil that we have here just in the 8 course is probably plenty and is totally sufficient to get your Wally Pocket done. It has all of the good stuff that you'll need to have your plants starting off good and thriving. But if you really want to go above and beyond, I would recommend our Malibu potting soil here. This is like some of the best stuff that you can get on the market, honestly. It has our Malibu compost mixed in with it, and it's grown biodynamically. It has a lot of great natural soil life in it. So it's really, really great stuff to use, and it's a good way of putting the investment into your container or your pocket early on, because you won't have to replace soil as often since this is such a good blend to start with. But your blue ribbon potting soil will totally get the job done as well if you want to do that. Secondly, you'll probably just want some fertilizer. So with any container planting, your pocket, your pots, anything like that, it's always good to have some fertilizer on hand, because you have to think about the plants are limited to just the nutrients that they have in that container. They're not spreading out into the ground and getting stuff from the environment around them. They're just limited to what you're giving them in that container. So fertilizer is really great to have on hand as well for something like this. I have our down-to-earth Violas fertilizer, which is basically just an all-purpose, but it also has this extra oomph of beneficial mycorrhizae in there. So this is really, really great to get your roots established better and faster and make sure they're absorbing all of the nutrients in that container efficiently. And it's critical to the health of your plants overall. So this is really great. It's just a step up above the general all-purpose. This is what we love to recommend here. And then I also just have a watering can, because you're going to want to water in your plants once you have the planting done. And any watering can will work. But I just grabbed a little small light one, just thinking about the fact that once I have this hung and planted, I'm going to be, maybe I have it up here and I'm going to be lifting it over my head to water. So just a small little light watering can is probably a little bit easier to use. Secondly, we'll just talk about my plant selection that I got here. Today I just plan on doing like a little edible garden. And in my personal opinion, I think everyone should have an herb garden on hand, like at all times. It drives me crazy when I'm doing a recipe and I'm cooking something and I just need a little sprig of cilantro or basil or whatever, and I have to go to the grocery store and get this like fat bundle of it, and it's like I'm never going to use it all. And so it's so much easier and just more practical and way more rewarding to just have a little container of herbs out on your porch, and you can just run out there and get the little snip as you're cooking, and it's super fresh and delicious. So I love to do edible gardens. I think this is a great way to use your Wally Pocket, so that's what we're going to do today. But you definitely don't have to be limited to that. You can see over here, if it's in the view, that we have like a lovely little shade planter with some begonias and ferns and stuff in it. So you can do a shade planter, you can do a full sun flower planting as well and pick out a bunch of beautiful flowers. You can even do like succulents. You can do houseplants inside if you want to. So don't feel limited to this, but this is just a great use, I think, for your Wally Pocket. So that's what we'll do today. So first off, I have a couple herbs up here. I have some sage, oregano, and thyme. These are all going to be good for moving into the cool season. We're kind of in the midst of fall right now, and as the temperatures are dropping, these are going to be the perennial herbs that should survive through the winter. They might slow down their growth a little bit, and in the spring they'll thrive a little bit more, but they should all be good to last through the winter, and you can use them in your cooking and everything. And then I also grabbed some strawberries, which initially I might have been a little skeptical about putting strawberries in the Wally Pocket, but we had them in our display pockets at our customer service booth for a little while. We probably had them for like 4 or 5 months, and they were just like loving it. And it was super cool to see all of the strawberries popping up around the booth, and kids would come and pull them off and everything. So after seeing that, I think every Wally Pocket deserves a couple of strawberries thrown in there as well. And then finally, I just have some Violas. I don't know if you can see the color on them super well, but they just have the cutest little faces, and they are a great flower to include in any cool season planting. I think even in an herb garden, it's always great to just throw in a couple flowers to mix up the texture, add a pop of color. So I grabbed some of these as well. And the best thing about them is the flowers are actually edible. So you can literally throw into a salad and eat those too. This is truly all the way around an edible planting. So these are great to add in. See if I can get this back on there. So to start, we just want to fill our pocket with soil at the base. I'm going to set this down for now. So I already started to cheat a little bit and add some soil in here just so you guys don't have to watch me struggle with it. But so I have some soil just right about this level. We'll put in just a little bit more just so you can see kind of how we're doing it. But basically, whenever you're filling the bottom of a container, you just want to get enough soil in there so when you take out the plant and you set it inside of the container, the soil level right here under the pot will be even or like just below the lip of the container or the pocket. So we'll take out our first plant here and give that a test and see if our soil level is okay. I don't have a lot of table space here, so we'll see how we do. So here I got my sage, and we'll just kind of set it in, and that looks pretty good. I might have to just press it in a little bit to make sure the root ball isn't exposed above the container at all, but as you can see, the lip's just slightly above the soil level. It seems like it's nice and even in here, so we're actually good to kind of take out all of our plants and start planting them. People have different strategies at this stage. You might want to just do one plant at a time and start to kind of build your container as you go. I like to take everything out from the beginning because I'm bad at kind of estimating the amount of stuff that I'll need, so I just take everything out. I set it in really gently so I can still move it around if I need to once I get everything in. If I realize there's not enough space or anything like that, I can still change it. So instead of adding all of our soil now, I'm just going to get the plants out and kind of set everything in. You can see the base of this just kind of fell off, so we might have to add a little bit more soil here. Actually, I think it's good, but we might have to add a little bit more just to make sure it's kind of level with everything else. Strawberries, we have a 6-pack here. I don't think that we're going to be able to fit them all, so I might just do like 2. These are going to be some of our taller plants that we have in here, so I'm going to kind of set them in the back just to see how that looks. I actually think I can add some on the corners as well, so maybe we'll pop some in here. Once again, this is not the final product. I'm just kind of setting everything in so I can see how it's going to look. See if I feel like everything's fitting well. And finally, we got our Violas. These are going to be probably the smallest, so we're just going to set them right in the front. Just here. We want to make sure that we can see their little faces with some color on them. Don't have a ton of room left. I think I can squeeze one more just right in front of the stage here, so let's get one more. Now you can see that everything's kind of in here. Some stuff's a little bit smaller, so we might have to selectively add soil to those spots just to keep everything level. And at this point, we're just going to take the soil and our trowel, and we'll just kind of add it in the holes. And it's going to take a little while. You'll have to go through a couple cycles of adding a little bit of soil and pressing it in, adding a little bit of soil, pressing it in. There's not much to that. It's just patience and getting it all in there. So I'm going to work on that, and I'll talk a little bit about just the maintenance and placement for your Wally Pocket. So the Wally Pocket itself is a felt material. It's made of 100% recycled plastic, which is super cool. That's just like another great feature of this product. It's really sturdy, but it's also breathable, which is great because in any container like this, you want the soil to have a way to drain and stay aerated just to keep all of the root systems nice and healthy. So this is a great product for that. Really good material to make sure all of your plants are going to stay healthy. And it's also durable, so it'll last a really long time. I think that we've had the ones on our display here for like many years. They have like moss growing on the bottom of them and everything, so I assume that they've been here for quite a while. I know for at least a couple years, and they look like they're still in really great shape and haven't aged very much at all. So we kind of got all of our violas propped up here, pretty level with everything else. The strawberry needs a little some dirt underneath it here. Another good feature about the Wally Pocket is it has a waterproof lining at the back. So I'm gonna pause just so you guys can see that with this little guy that I have here. I got this little one, so I can just hold it up and maybe show you a little better. So you can see there's kind of this waterproof lining on the inside, and then the felt fabric just kind of sits over it. And so that'll protect your walls and everything from any water that might drain through. You can use these inside. I'm gonna be honest with you, that would make me a little nervous to put this inside my house on my wall, because I'd still be scared that just a little bit would leak through somewhere. But I've seen it done. If you are braver than me and you want to give it a try, I say go for it, because I think that would look super gnarly, so cool. So I say go for it. I just am a little nervous to try it myself, but that waterproof lining should protect your wall from any damage. As far as hanging it, it's pretty simple. You have these grommets here on the corners, and it comes with some screws and drywall anchors with the pocket. That's how they're sold, so you can always just use those if you're doing it on wood or drywall and secure it that way. So that's pretty simple. As far as maintenance for these, it's really quite easy. You can do something where you can keep it kind of the same way for a couple years. You can probably select some plants where you can do that. But in my opinion, the fun of this product is that it's something that you're going to be changing regularly. You're going to be switching out plants all the time with the seasons, just with what you feel. If you're bored of something in there, you can change it out. And you don't have to change the whole thing at once. You can literally just pluck out one plant that you don't want in there anymore or you're bored of, and you can switch it out with something else. So it's super, super versatile. Once again, you can select something that you can kind of have planted in here for a longer period of time. Maybe something like these ferns would be a good option. But for a little edible garden, I say change it up, switch out the herbs when you're kind of got them all used up, change out the color with the seasons, and have fun with it. It's literally as easy as just pulling out the plant that you don't want anymore. You might have to break up the soil a little bit with a trowel to break up the root system. I'm gonna pause here just so I can focus on getting that in there. I don't usually use my gloves for something like this, just so I can feel any air pockets and make sure everything's filled in really nicely. Once again, this strawberry on the corner gets a little bit of soil under it here. That should be good. Yeah, so finishing up on the topic of maintenance, it's super easy. Really hardly any maintenance as far as the actual product itself. It's just a matter of changing out the different plants when you want to with the different seasons, or when something's used up or not looking so good, you just pull it out and you pop in another plant and you are good to go. I'm almost done here, so I'm just gonna pause to kind of focus on making sure all of the holes are filled in. You don't want to leave any air gaps that can allow for the roots to dry out, or maybe a pocket of water to start and get stagnant, maybe right out the root system. So you always just want it packed pretty evenly, not too tight, but just make sure everything's filled in and there's no holes that are going to be blocking anything here. This guy got kind of buried. Let's make sure poking out here. Like I said, this is just patience. You got to be really gentle with them. Can't really rush it. Just to make sure everything's filled in really nicely. Another trick I was reading about these is to, when you have your soil, kind of fill it a little bit higher in the back. That's because when you're going to go to water these, you're going to water it from the back. As you can see, the way it hangs, it kind of leans forward. So if you were to just water it in the front, all of the water would just pool up in this front side here, and it's not going to get any of the root system in the back wet. If you have some plants in here that don't have roots up here, they're not going to be getting any water. So instead, you're going to take your watering can along this back wall and water it from the back. And since you're doing that, it's also good to have a little bit more soil in the back, just because as the water flows, it might erode a little bit of that dirt forward. And so over time, it'll even out, but this will just kind of keep all of the water flowing the direction it should and keeping you from losing soil on the back. I think we're almost done here. Everything seems pretty well filled in. Yeah. Just got to clean it up a little bit, and it is good to go. I think I got all of my pockets filled. You can see it's as easy as that. You can pick out whatever plants you want as long as they are a good fit for the space that you're going to be putting your pocket in. They should be great. It's super versatile. You can do lots of different things. Like I said, you can do shade plants, you can do flowers, you can do an edible garden like this. You can try out house plants in your house if you are braver than me and you want to try putting it in your home, which I think is super cool. So that pretty much sums it up for the Wally Pockets. I don't know if anyone has any questions, if I glazed over anything too fast.
So the first question is, do you suggest watering with a shower or a regular spout?
Shower would definitely work. That's going to be getting it more evenly. I think that should be totally fine in my opinion. The Wally Pocket instructions say that you should really probably use a spout and just do it right along the back here so you're getting all of this felt material wet. And then from there, it's going to spread along the fabric and then kind of evenly drain forward. So I think this just gives you a little bit more precision than sticking a big spout in here and kind of just mass watering everything. And you always want to try to not get the leaves of what you're watering too wet. So I think the spout gives you that precision to kind of get under the leaves a little bit and just make sure that you're wetting the soil and not splashing anything up on the leaves. So I'd recommend a spout, or a little spout, but I think you're fine with kind of like the shower nozzle if you want to go that way.
Okay, is the whole pocket waterproof?
No, so in the front here, it's just the felt. In the back, I can probably check it with this little guy. Well, okay, it does have waterproof lining still in the front, but I'm just not sure about this part that's kind of folded over here. I would think that that might just be the felt, but that's literally just this top couple inches right here that might not be waterproof. So everything here and wrapping around to the front is the waterproof lining. So you should be good putting it up on a wall. Like I said, personally, I'm just a little nervous putting that inside my house just in case over time maybe a little seam will split a little bit or something like that, but for the most part it has you pretty well covered as far as the waterproof lining.
How often do you water it?
That is highly dependent on the plants that you have in there. Something like this, as long as I have it in a good full sun location, or maybe like a part sun location, you'll probably want to be watering it once every, like twice a week. But that's going to depend on the weather. If it's been raining a lot, you probably can draw back. If it's been really hot and super sunny, like we just had rain, but it's going to start getting hot again this week, you might want to boost it up a little bit. Plants are pretty good about telling you when they need watering. The leaves might start to droop a little bit, and that's how you can tell that they're going to need a little bit more of a refreshment. And then also, the easiest hack is to just feel the soil. If you just stick your finger in about an inch deep and it feels dry thoroughly within that inch, it's going to need another watering. You always want to make sure it dries out a little bit in between watering, but not too much. If you have succulents though, like if you have a different plant in there, you're going to water that like once every 2 weeks, and it's okay to stay dried out for longer. So it really just depends on the plants. If you have a specific arrangement that you have in mind that you want to try, you can comment that below and we can maybe assess that more specifically, but really just depends on the plants that you have in there.
Okay, back to the waterproof. So will it leak?
No, it shouldn't. With anything, there's a chance that it might have a little tear or something over time, but it shouldn't be leaking water onto the wall, no.
Okay. What soil and fertilizer did you use?
Yeah, so I used this blue ribbon potting soil right here. It's a really nice, just light blend. It has all of the stuff that you need in it. But I also brought up our Malibu potting soil, which is really like the next step up. This stuff is really great. It has our Malibu compost in it. It's grown biodynamically. It has a lot of active natural soil life in it. So if you want to put a better investment in your plants from the beginning, I would start with this. Because with this stuff, it's totally going to get the job done. It's going to be great. It's less expensive, but you might have to refresh the soil a little more often when you're switching plants out and everything like that. And then I had for the fertilizer here our Down to Earth Violas. This is a good one for the vegetables. You might look into something else if you have different plants in here, but this is kind of like an all-purpose that should cover most of the plants that you'd put in this. And then it has that little bonus of the beneficial mycorrhizae in it, which will really help the root system. So this is kind of a step above like just your general all-purpose because it has that as well.
Okay, that seems to be all the questions for today. Thank you.
All right, awesome. So yeah, to summarize, I think the Wally Pockets are a really great way to get into vertical gardening. it might seem a little intimidating because it's just an unusual way to garden, but these are super easy. You saw how quick this was and how easy it is to select your plants and get them in there. Super easy to take care of, and they're very durable. But yeah, it's vertical gardening, I think, is really going to be huge moving forward. We're all limited on space, and it's a great way to turn that blank wall space into a green space and to stay connected to nature. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you guys are ready to give this a try. And you can join us on Tuesday. We're going to be introducing our next plant of the week for our Falls for Planting program that we have going on right now. So we have a bunch of great selection of plants that are 25% off, and we'll be introducing our new featured plant next week. And then if you missed any part of this or you want to watch it again, you can do that on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. We have some more how-tos on there as well, in addition to our Pinterest. And then also make sure you join our emails. So we have all of our events and everything blasted through our email program, and you can always get join as our rewards program as well. And so you can get rewarded for your shopping and everything on there. You can shop online if you want to. We have our Christmas boutique going, our Falls for Planting program, a lot of great stuff going on. And then you are always welcome to suggest any other gardening topics that you're interested in us covering in the comments, and we can work on getting those out for you. Happy gardening. Thank you.